how then, all right, cool, we've by the grace of God, we've plugged ourselves into community, and you know, we've fanned the flame, and it's increasing by the grace of God. We are no longer stagnant. But church is not the only thing we do. We don't just come to church, go home, come to church, go home. We have lives outside of church. We go to school, go to university, we go to work, we travel. Let's say we travel, do loads of different things, and in the spaces that we are, we meet new people, we meet other people who aren't like us, who don't go to church, but we still share similar interests or share similar things with the people that we meet, and by default we build relationships, we have friendships with these people. But we know and understand that though we have some sort of community with these people, the community we have with these people isn't the community in which we are necessarily fed spiritually the way we would like to, the way we desire to. So how then, as believers, as Christians, do we navigate our relationships with our non-Christian friends? What boundaries do we put in place? What boundaries can we put in place? You know, if we're meant to be winning these people to the kingdom, how do we navigate that space? I love my friend, but my friend is an atheist. How do I keep or uphold a boundary with said friend?
I think again, be encouraged. We have loads of really good examples in the scripture. Again, the greatest example is Jesus himself. Okay, because he's God in the flesh, so maybe it's not a fair example, but a good example in that he was able to mingle with, you know, people from all walks of life and able to love on them. And when I mean love on them, what you'd find is that, you know, he'd heal the blind, he'd heal the sick, he would extend love to people who couldn't necessarily give anything in return. And so I think be encouraged as a Christian, you know, in terms of that distance that we're talking about. You know, sometimes you kind of think about it as, oh, you know, I can't get too close, because if I get too close, then I might fall into what said community, you know, does. But at the same time, I want to be a bit far enough to, you know, keep a distance. I think with wisdom, and through what we've talked about today about, you know, walking in the Spirit and, you know, using wisdom to know, you know, who's doing the influencing is important. Because sometimes you might feel that, okay, I'm the one who's influencing them for the sake of Christ, but actually it might be the other way around. But I'd still be motivated by that desire to love on them, you know, to really take an interest in who they are as an individual. You know, I've been working now for, you know, close to sort of 10 years after uni. But I'm getting older. But the reality of the situation is that people are people fundamentally, and beyond all of the glitz and the glam and, you know, going out, getting drunk and all of that, people have real concerns, real needs, right? A lot of people are looking for purpose, they are looking for joy, they are deeply depressed, they are deeply lacking, you know, satisfaction. And yeah, you know, there'll be times where you can share the gospel with them, but sometimes the best thing you can do is put your arm around someone and say, look, I'm here for you. I want to, you know, be a friend to you. And sometimes that means just listening. That means having a listening ear. You know, I think a really good example of friendship, you know, in the scriptures, or at least an extension of that love, is Matthew 25, where Jesus talks about, you know, if you see the hungry, if you see the sick, you know, feed them, visit them. Going the extra mile to do more than what someone is asking you to do can be a great form of love. And then on the flip side, in terms of answering your question, to protect yourself, I think it's important to know your community, to plug yourself into a community where there are Christians who can help to build you up and encourage you, because you can't do it by yourself. So if you're the only Christian amongst your friends, and those are the only friends that you meet with Monday to Sunday, where are you getting that contact time to meet with other believers who can build you up? Do you see what I'm saying? So I think, you know, both are important, but I wouldn't distance myself from that community. But at the same time, you know, I'd make sure that I'm in a Christian community as well at the same time. So yeah, I'd say those two things.
It's tough, mainly because I agree with everything Sam said. I haven't been working for as long as Sam. Obviously, he's much older and stuff like that. But I think there's a period in your Christian faith where you do actually need to be separated. And a biblical word will be consecrated. I think when you first get saved, there is a need to just unplug yourself from like the matrix, so to speak. And I think that's very healthy. And in people I've seen come to Christ, people who've grown in God, even myself, there were periods where I had like intense unplugging that were very helpful. And I think I would want to advocate that for everybody, that you should have those periods. Now, where I think me and Sam totally agree is, should that be your normal state where you're just removed from everybody? No. Because how will people get to know Jesus if they don't get to see you, right? You know, you are Jesus' hands and feet. What do they say? So that's all true. But I don't want us to kind of, and perhaps maybe I'm just flying the flag a little bit for consecration and for being removed and for having periods of fasting, periods where you're not easy to contact because you're consecrated and you're spending time detoxing from the world, weaning yourself from the world. That's very important too. And ironically, it's something that you should work with a mentor, with pastors, so you work out how best to do it for you. But as much as you want to be like in the world, I am in the world. Like away from our God mission, I work in the world, in the world, right? So I'm definitely there, but I have to prepare to go into there. I do retreats a lot. We've got one coming up soon. I'm always at retreats, just trying to just kind of like, let me detox, because it's a lot, and you can get carried away. You can get carried away with the wind of the day, and before you know it, you're just a less bad version of the world, if we're honest. And you don't want that. You want to be an alien.